Perfect. All right. Welcome everyone on YouTube. Welcome everyone in the crowd today. I'm excited to be here. And thank you for coming out in the middle of summer, because it's definitely, there's other options you guys can be doing, but you guys are all here to educate and get yourselves informed on how to take massive action in our market today. For those of you guys who don't know me, my name is Cameron. I'm the Director of Sales with the Kelly Fry team, and this is the Investors Performance Group, and we are brought to you, if technology works today, by the Kelly Fry team. So we are a full service real estate investment team, and we're here to help you guys grow your investment portfolios here throughout the Lower Mainland and across Canada, because I know many of you guys who are online join us from all across the country. Just a quick show of hands, how many of you guys are here for the very first time today? All right, we got some newbies here. Excellent. Well, welcome everyone. We hope you guys enjoy the event tonight. And at the end, we do recommend you stick around, network with other like-minded individuals, because this is where their deals happen all the time in this room. So we're going to kind of roll things forward. You're not going to hear too much from me throughout the day. We're going to move on to mostly our speakers. And we got a great lineup for you guys today. We're going to kick things off with a case study on rent-to-owns. And that's going to be done by both Kelly and Ray Vesely. Now, the interesting thing about the rent-to-own strategy is I've been told multiple times, because the market's gone so high, this strategy no longer works. So we're going to show you that it absolutely does. And Kelly's been speaking on this strategy now for many, many years. So you guys are in great hands with the two of them. We're going to have another Tales from the Trenches. It's actually going to be done by Jim Garnett, if he can make it online. So he's going to be joining us from the road while he's going down to Calgary right now. We've got another series of unfortunate Airbnb adventures, which we got some great tales for you today. Then we're going to be bringing up our guest speaker, who is Dave Webster from McLean Homes, and finish things out with a market update and some hot deals. So again, you're not going to listen too much from me today. We're going to go right into our guest speakers. But before we do that, we are having a little bit of a contest today. So the contest, we got a couple of awesome books. The first one is actually a book on how to do rent-to-owns in Canada. And so if you guys want to be entered into the draw for that, all we ask is you guys engage with us on social media. So take photos, videos, post it to your Instagram and Facebook using the hashtag Investors Performance Group or IPG 2023. And don't forget to tag the Kelly Fry team at Kelly Fry team, so we can see all your posts and then draw a winner at the very end of the night. All right, so without further ado, we're going to bring up our first speakers, and this is Ray Vesely. So Ray, come on up while I'm giving your bio here. Ray is the principal and CEO of Apex Western Homes, a Better Business Bureau A+ rated construction company with over 23 years of experience designing and building custom spec homes. His experience acquiring and managing over $40 million in real estate assets led him to develop Vancouver Rent-to-Own in response to the affordability and mortgage difficulties many are presently experiencing. He's also in the process of reshaping the skyline in the city of Mission. So we're pretty excited about that. And I just drove past and I saw the building. I'm like, when the heck did that get up there? How tall is that building?
It's 11 stories.
11 stories. So, I mean,
1,100 feet.
That's pretty big for the city of Mission, right? So give him a round of applause. And Kelly, if you want to come up with him. I'm going to give you this, so you can just clip that onto you somewhere where you want. All right. And Kelly, I'll give you this one here. And there we go. Take it away.
Perfect. You're going to help me here with this.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll do that right there. Oops. And then we can do this one.
Oh, in the pocket, or?
We can just do that right there. That's fine. There we go. Oh. If I can. Oh, you know what? Let's put it in your pocket. There we go. Okay. All yours.
All right. So I put together a small presentation for tonight. Ray is unaware of what's in the presentation, so this is going to be fun. I'm going to call upon him to add points along the way. But firstly, I wanted to give a shout out to my friends Dave and Shirley Stone. Now, I met Dave and Shirley back in about 2010. I was on Craigslist looking up rent-to-owns. I was doing rent-to-owns as an investor, and they were doing the same thing. We had a coffee, and then we started to collaborate. And we started doing rent-to-owns together, and then I got my real estate license in 2011, and I said to them, you know, I think we can do this better. Instead of just taking properties and finding people, I think we should find the people and take them shopping right on MLS, get them to pick what they want, and then buy it for them. And Dave, as usual, said, well, what if we can't find investors? And I said, well, Dave, I think we can. I said, so let's give it a try. If we fail, we fail. And for the next almost 10 years, we put deals together and we never didn't have an investor for a deal. Now, unfortunately, in 2019, Dave had a massive stroke and he's paralyzed on his right side now. So his arm is in a sling. He has difficulty speaking. And so he was unable to continue with the business. He can't really type on a computer anymore. And his wife took over the business for about a year and a half. But unfortunately, it was just too much for her, taking care of him, her own health concerns. And so that left sort of this void for me. And, you know, when we have people in our lives like this, you just never realize that maybe one day they won't be well. And Dave and I used to scrap all the time when we were working on deals and we'd disagree on things. And then I'd bring Shirley in and we'd outvote him and we'd ultimately get the deal done. And he was always so chatty. So we were always in Starbucks meeting with investors, meeting with rent-to-own candidates. And I was always thinking, oh, God, Dave, please stop talking. And now when I saw him the other day and, you know, he's so strained in his speech. And, you know, I just long for the days when, you know, we used to disagree and he used to talk all the time. 2020, along came Ray Vesely. And so we had many sales in the Georgia and Langley, and we had a client that ran into trouble, couldn't complete on a pre-sale. And for those of you who don't know, if you can't complete on a pre-sale, you run the risk of losing your deposit and also being sued for non-completion. So Ray came along like a white knight and purchased the condo on their behalf and did a rent-to-own for them. And so from that point forward, really, we've been working together.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Now,
I didn't know about the disagreeing part.
you and I
I'll
don't
start arguing with
we
you.
don't usually disagree, but Dave and I used to. So basically, both companies, Tuza and Rent-to-Own Homes, which is Ray's company, have a slightly different structure. Tuza would do a rental with an option to buy. We would buy the property, mark it up 3 to 4% a year for 3 to 5 years, and that would be the preset price. In Ray's model, we buy the property, the person pays that price, but he marks up the interest cost. So there's a spread on the interest from what his investors are getting charged to what he's charging the tenant buyer. And his interest rate varies, which we'll see in an example, a case study that we just did. But in the meantime, we'll just touch on a few points of rent-to-own. So rent-to-own is a two-part strategy. You've got a lease with an option to buy, and I always equate it to cars. It's the same situation. So with both a house and a car, a person enters into a monthly obligation with the option to buy that asset at the end of the term. And at the end of the term, the lessee has the option to either buy the property out or they can decide to walk away. But if they walk away, they're walking away from their deposit and they're walking away from any equity they've built up or any credits. Now, people are always nervous about rent-to-owns and they say, well, what about the risks? What if, you know, the person doesn't buy the home? Well, in many cases, like when we're buying the homes, we try to pick properties that we know we can Airbnb, we can re-rent, we can do a rent-to-own again, or the investor can just sell it. And I had a situation recently in the last few months where an investor had to sell a rent-to-own because the rent-to-own tenant ended up in a coma and his father couldn't make the payments. And so this investor has a really good heart and she actually gave him back some of the money, but she still made a much better profit because her contract price to this guy versus what the open market gave her was substantially different. And now this guy came out of the coma and now he wants to do another rent-to-own. So she might do another one for him. Now, people worry about damaging the property on a regular rental. You're going to get a few $1,000s. On a rent-to-own, you're going to get $10,000, $20,000, $50,000 or more. So there's really way less risk as long as you do adequate screening of that individual and don't take a drug dealer, for instance. So recently I had a phone call from a lady who I used to drive around in a vehicle that said rent-to-own on it. So people still remember that. She had seen me at the school. She went through a divorce. She has 3 kids, and she had to go back to school because she had been a stay-at-home mom, and she became an RMT. She's a very hard worker. She handles 8 clients a day now as a self-employed RMT, and she manages to earn $12,000 a month, which is a substantial income. And she was very wise because she knew if she took a job as an RMT, she'd never make the income she needed to provide for her family. And she also has the bonus income of $8,000 in child support because she was previously married to a physician. So as soon as I talked to her, I knew we could help her. because I knew she had the ability to pay what needed to be paid monthly because interest rates are higher right now. I knew that if she could come up with the option consideration, this would be a good candidate that we could help, and I could transition her from, higher interest rate rent-to-own model right now into future bank financing. So I called Ray right away, and we got her on the phone. So some of the obstacles to the conventional financing were for her score was in the low 600s. She has an arrears owing to CRA. She doesn't have 2 full years of financial statements and self-employed status, which the banks want to see if they're going to lend you a mortgage. So she needs to get through that period of time as well. Now, in terms of financial considerations, I wanted to make sure she had the money. So she had had a house fire. She's been renting a home. And so she had tenant insurance, and her payout check was $30,000. So she had that $30,000, and then she had some investments of $20,000. And because she was of the mind that she wanted to do a rent to own, she started saving. So she had 10. So that gave her $60,000. But I was a little worried because Ray's program, usually he wants 10% of the purchase price. And she wanted a townhouse that was fairly big in Maple Ridge. And townhouses in Maple Ridge right now are between $800,000 and $900,000. And the inventory is super tight. But anyway, Ray, I guess in your situation, you saw she was a strong candidate, so you thought you'd make an exception, or tell us sort of what you thought.
I based it on you because I know she's does screening quite well. And we do up to 5% down sometimes. Depends on the market and the risk. So I'm always trying to protect my investors. So she was a really strong candidate, and the product was really good. So if I do have to take the product in and I can sell it right away, that's usually my consideration. So I'll actually lower price products. I'll go to 5%. Higher price of West Van or something, I'm 30%. The harder, the more the risk. But it was a strong candidate, as you said. So
and also too, I think you vary your interest rate on the basis of how much they're putting down. So if they put down more, they get a lower rate with you, and if they put less down, they pay slightly more. Is that right?
The best way I can explain it is the Bank of Canada has a prime rate of 5%, and then the bank has a prime rate that's like 7%. They work off a spread. I work off the spread from the bank.
Right.
So the more you put down, just like a bank, you get a better rate and so forth. So yes, it's quite a bit higher. And if you're 5%, if you put way more down, I can get right down.
Right down. And something that was really interesting when I started working with Ray is that my biggest deals were smaller than his smallest deals. So it was a whole new world because he was doing it on the North Shore and in Vancouver, and we were doing the Fraser Valley and Tri-Cities, which were smaller deals in your eyes, right?
Yeah, I'm a North Shore guy, so most of my project was about 3 million or so.
So the goals with this particular client were to find a suitable townhouse in Maple Ridge and to use this program to bridge the gap until we can get her into a place where she can get conventional bank financing and to increase her credit score during that time. So this is the MLS listing. It might be small to see, but basically a few highlights I would say. It was 19 days on the market when we went firm. We got it for $872,500. It's very large, 2,442 square feet, 3 bedrooms and 4 baths. And I think she wants to build a 4th bedroom, and you gave her some guidance on how, because he is a builder developer, he knows how to do that. So she's going to make a 4th bedroom in that place. And the strata is pretty open, I think, to any cosmetic changes like that.
Interior there.
Interior.
And as well as a 4-bedroom sells better. So
yeah, that's better for you.
De-risks it for me.
And these townhouses are very large, and they are only attached on one side. So it's really almost like our house. And it's on the main street. So the parking issue that you see in most townhouse complexes doesn't apply because it looks physically like a house on the street.
It does.
The strata fees on this are $437 a month. So that's something that she's going to have to bear under his program. You can see from the photos that it's well maintained, bright. It was occupied by elderly sellers. And this became an incredibly good point for us because they are waiting for new construction to complete. They needed a long date. So we got a November 15th completion, which is critical for our tenant buyer because she needs to save more money for her closing costs to be able to pull this off. So She put up the 60,000, which she gave to Ray just at subject removal, because he's not going to remove conditions without her cash, right? And then the balance will be payable at completion. The property transfer tax and legal is just over 17,000. So she now has between now and November to pull that cash together. Now, I'll let you discuss your spreadsheet here because you're the creator of this.
So basically, I put a term sheet together. She wanted a 3-year term. I usually try for 5 years because within 5 years, property always goes up. And in that time, all that capital appreciation goes towards her down payment. When she cashes out, goes to the bank. And that's the main thing, is trying to get people to transition from rent to home ownership. So the longer the term, the easier it is to gain more uplift in the capital appreciation. I think we're fairly safe now because the market has been down. So generally in a down market, usually it goes up after that. So I'm pretty comfortable with her 3-year term. And so the purchase price was $872. The option fee is the $61. That goes towards her deposit back to her thing. And we base our calculation off of 827 right up here. I think you guys can see all that, right? Or unless you don't want me to point. Oh, pointer. That's even better. 827 is her mortgage amount, the property transfer tax. So I am just a bank, literally how I treat it as a bank. So property transfer tax, legal fees, all the costs are bared by the tenant buyer.
And this, can you
And
explain
then
this
they are
admin
also
fee?
paying a principal interest payment. And so that principal interest payment over the end of the term, it gets lower, as you can see, down to the 812, right? If there's an administration fee, with the administration fee, it can be rolled back into the mortgage, just like CMHC does. So
That's how you make your money?
that's how I make my money, yeah. And then the investors, I take them, and they're about at 10%. They make money off the spread from, because I go get a bank loan.
This here looks like it's 10.6% interest. Is that right?
Yeah. Make a little bit on the 0.6. But
Any questions on the numbers, you guys? I think they're thinking about it. Studying.
that's pretty straightforward, I think. You understand bank loans, really,
Well,
I'm just doing a bank loan.
We're missing some of my pages here that were supposed to be in here.
Great. And buy.
Yes.
Can we recap on what was the original purchase price and what the tenant buyer ended up paying?
Oh, no, they paid the original purchase
They
price.
pay that price. He
But
doesn't mark up the purchase price.
I don't mark up the purchase price.
Oh, okay,
Their payments per month is a principal interest. So their payments are slowly going down. And that's another thing. In 5 years, you're actually gaining capital appreciation, plus you're paying down the debt. So then you get that spread. And usually it comes out to about 25, 30% down. So it makes it quite a bit easier for them to go to the bank. And we do extensions. That's not a problem. I just did one for a lady in Calgary. She couldn't get her bank loan. So we did another 5-year extension. So we're there trying to make it, as long as people are making their payments or trying, we work something out. During COVID, we actually bumped our payments and added back into the principal. Try and work with our clients. So out of, I think I've had about 38 deals, 37 deals, something like that. I've only ever had 2 people that have not completed.
That's pretty good numbers, Ray.
Yeah.
That's less than 10%.
But a lot of them, I have to give them extensions,
Yeah,
which is
you help
fine.
them. Yeah, I think like over the years with Tuza, the only time that people didn't complete was if there was a job loss or a divorce.
Yeah.
That's the only time, really. Okay, so I took some of your terms and conditions off your term sheet here.
Oh, okay.
So all costs are the tenant's responsibility, and if it's new construction, then the GST they're paying as well. Property transfer tax, any admin fees, any registration, inspection, appraisal, they pay for everything basically, right?
Mm-hmm.
The tenant's responsible for the payment of all utilities and other costs, including strata fees, property tax, water, sewer, electrical, and tenant will pay the strata fees, and this is interesting too, any special levies they're responsible for. So they would have to pay you and then you would remit it.
That's right.
And they either pay the property taxes to the landlord monthly with the rent or in a lump sum. What's the percentage of people that pay you monthly versus a lump sum?
I don't really know that answer. I'd have to ask my accountant. I think it's the majority are doing monthly.
Yeah, it'd be safer for you,
Yeah.
I would think. Then the tenant is required to obtain renter's policy of insurance, provide a copy to the landlord, and they have to have liability for up to not less than $2 million. They have to be responsible for the upkeep of the maintenance of the property, just like they would with a bank. And you want them to treat it like their home from this point forward, right?
Everything's just like a bank loan.
Exactly, owner in training. Upon payment of the initial deposit, the company will purchase the property on their behalf. They'll rent it to you on the specified per term sheet with the monthly rent, strata, taxes, etc. And the option consideration will be deducted at the end towards the purchase price. But if at the end of the term they're not able to purchase, you'll consider an extension of 2 years, but it sounds like you might even do 5.
I just did 5 years. I just had to put something in.
And the rate is going to be adjusted to match the interest rate at that time. If the payments aren't made and they're late more than 10 days, there'll be an eviction notice sent. But that doesn't seem to happen to you very often.
Yeah.
And if they're not caught up and you put the home on the market and the purchase is accepted, then they lose all their money they've put down, which I'm sure keeps them from not doing that.
That's what usually keeps them going. I've a couple times I've had to give out a 10-day notice, but they usually come up with the money and then we wrap it up. Yeah.
Perfect.
So if you have to evict them, are you still under the BC Tenancy Act?
The Tenancy Act.
So it's still the same process?
Yeah, they lose their option. We just give them a notice, said you just lost your option fee, now it's the Tenancy Act. And so we use the tenancy agreement for the eviction notice. So we follow that whole procedure.
Kelly, do you find that this system for the tenant buyer is more affordable than the one that you used with TUSA? In the sense that with the other one, you had to set up the future purchase price. In this case, is the real purchase price, but you just deal with the financing. What?
You know, I don't know the answer to that. I haven't calculated the difference on both. I think the 2 different programs work for different people. Like, not everybody can absorb a 10.6% interest rate like this client, right? So the TUSA deal is a little bit easier probably on someone in that regard. But Ray's not comfortable with that model because he feels that there's too much risk when the person's only putting 5% down and they're putting up another 20, right, as investors. So, and people did well, like the people that were only paying 3 to 4% markups per year and the market took off, obviously made huge equity, right? The investors lost out in that regard. But I guess in yours, they're not getting marked up anyway either.
No.
So.
I find the biggest difference is easier to get in your program, monthly wise, but the exit's easier in ours. There's a much bigger, you're building up and saving a lot more for the exit. So I'm trying to set them up for success in the end.
There is no capital gain in your structure, it's all income.
Not for me, there isn't. It depends on the tenant buyer, how they purchased it. The odd person, we put it in business. If we put it in a business, it's a capital gain. I get no capital gain because they're actually just paying it down, right? I don't get more than what I bought the property for. I actually get less because they're slowly paying it down. I had one guy from Hawaii. He bought out at Cultus Lake. He bought it for $1 million. He actually put 30% down. In about a year, less than a year, he phones me up and he says, "I'd like to break the mortgage and cash out and sell the place." I said, "You just signed up. The penalty's gonna be pretty big, buddy." And he says, "Oh, well, let me know." Okay, it's about $70,000. So he said, "Okay, good. I'm gonna list it." All right. What are you listing it for? 1.5 or 1.6. Sold it for 1.55. He didn't care. Are you
serious?
Yeah, he didn't care. So he was quite happy. However, he was from Hawaii, so I would have had to hold back 25% and pay it on his behalf as a foreign buyer. But his wife ended up being Canadian, so we got to pay it all directly to her. They have to absorb the taxes themselves and deal with the tax situation. But there's no capital gain for me. He made the $550,000. That was my most successful one.
Perfect. So I guess that's it. Is there any questions online?
If you guys have any questions at all in the crowd or anyone online, feel free to drop your comments.
If you have questions later, you can hit me up and I'll give you a card
Okay.
too.
Go ahead and just make sure you repeat the question back for people online.
Okay.
Go ahead.
That question. What's your lender fee or renewal fee?
What's the lender
What's
fee
the
or
rate going to
renewal?
be in 5 years? And the lender fee is 1.75, and on the plus 1% for mortgage brokers. If they bring them, I have mortgage brokers that bring me a deal in. I pay them 1%, or I should say the tenant buyer pays them 1%.
All right, doesn't look like we have any questions online. If there's any other questions, now's the time. If not, we'll move on.
I'll be around for a while anyway. So
Perfect. All right, sounds good.
thank you.
Thank you. Ray, I'll grab that clip from you. Thank you, sir. If not, I'm going to hear everything you say, or at least everyone online will. Sorry. All right. Okay, so we're going to move on to our next segment here, which is called the Tales from the Trenches. Now, this is a segment that we've been doing for many, many years. And the reason why we decided to add this into our segments is because, well, when you go to different seminars or different groups, they always talk about, you know, how amazing real estate is. And it is. That's why we're here. But there's also the other side of the coin. What happens if something goes wrong? What happens if a tenant doesn't pay? What happens in any scenario? We've done so many of these stories. And every single time we sit there and say, I don't think we can come up with another story. We've heard it all. And then something happens and we say, well, we've got more content for next month. So we're going to show you the other side. Now, the reason why we do this is not to scare you, but we want to make sure you guys are aware that these things happen and you can either, one, learn how to completely avoid it, or two, if it does happen, how you handle it. So to do that, we're going to bring up Jim Garnett. Jim, are you there?
I am.
Perfect. All right, I'm going to just move the screen. This week's or this month, we're going to be talking about, do you know what goes on behind closed doors? And this will give you a little bit of a hint. Today, I'm going to bring Jim up on the screen. So I'm going to just move this. And we can have him.
More appropriately, Cameron, do you know what is going on behind your doors?
There you go. All right. Oh, and I got to stop the screen. There we go. Perfect. All right. Well, Jim, you're on the screen. Feel free. Take it away.
Hi, good evening, everybody. So this is one of those stories that comes along every now and then. It just reminds everybody that just how important it is that they should get out, do inspections, and find out what is going on behind their doors. So this started with a couple of ladies in Toronto partnering up and deciding to do some real estate investments together. They bought several properties in the Lower Mainland. After a period of time, they traveled to BC earlier this spring for the purpose of conducting inspections of their properties. Now, they bought 2 properties in Poco and they have 1 in Langley. So they made arrangements with the tenants ahead of time and said, you know what, we're coming out. We want to do inspections of our properties. And everybody seemed to be on side. So they arrived and did the inspections in Poco first. There was no problems at all. Then they wandered down to Langley, and they got to the unit in Langley, and there was nobody home. So they reached out to the gentleman who they had rented the unit to, and they had only rented it out to one gentleman. And they were told that he would not be attending at this time. He wasn't able to attend. So they said, you know what, no problem. We got a key to the unit. We'll just open the door, go in, do our inspection, and we're going to be on our way. So they tried the key in the lock, and lo and behold, the tenant has changed the locks and they don't have access. So they were forced to pull back, even though they had given proper notice. They found themselves in a bit of a pickle here. So while they're standing in the hallway and discussing the fact the keys have been changed and all that sort of thing, one of the neighbors stopped by to talk to them. And so the neighbor was happy to tell them that, well, no, ladies, you must be mistaken. There's no gentleman that lives here, but there is a woman living here. And obviously quite a popular woman because she has a lot of male friends who drop by to visit. So the ladies, they're now concerned about this, and they're thinking, what's going on in our unit here? Pretty sure we rented to a guy, and why this woman's telling us this story, we don't know. So they reached out to the Kelly Fry Group and they asked for a referral. They said, we need somebody to assist us with this. And so that way they came across CTI Services. Now, through conversations with the investors, it was determined that the gentleman who had rented their unit never picks up his mail. In fact, our information was that there was 3-year-old mail in the mailbox for that unit. So armed with that information, we decided the best course of action was to serve this guy with a notice of entry for the purpose of conducting an inspection and rekeying the lock so that the landlord had a key to the unit. Now, having said this, we decided, I guess the most appropriate way to serve this guy is by registered mail. Now, you might think, well, that's kind of odd, Jim. Why would you send it by registered mail? You know he's not picking it up. Precisely. The whole idea of this exercise was to get behind the door and find out what was going on. So we get served the notice, and our inspector went there on the Friday afternoon the notice was good for, to conduct the inspection. The locksmith arrived to rekey the locks. Everything was going along swimmingly. So we had prepared a note, and the note was to be posted on the door by the inspector when he finished the inspection. And the note basically said, the landlord has rekeyed your locks. For a key to your unit, please contact this number for Jim Garnett. So that's what happened. And that got posted on the door once the locksmith was doing his thing, and our inspector went about doing his inspection. Well, the inspector reported back and said, Jim, I have never seen so many sex toys in one place in my life. And just so you know, there isn't a stitch of men's clothing in this unit. Well, I thought, isn't that odd? Perhaps the fellow just has, a penchant for women's clothing or whatever. So then my inspector went on to say, well, there's a business card here for a lady who calls herself Maya West, as well as a website where she can be found. And apparently, she is there to serve the male population in any way that she can and to make their lives more enriched. So the inspector and Anna Garnett viewed the website. And while viewing the website, the inspector's wife came along and was looking over his shoulder at what her husband was up to. And both Anna and the inspector's wife had the same comment that they made. She has some very nice lingerie. Well, it seemed that we had determined the male was definitely not living there, and that something untoward was happening in the quiet little hamlet of Langley. So the next problem was, how do we deal with it? So we got a hold of the clients. We told them what was going on. And of course, they said, we realize this may take months, Jim, but we want this resolved as soon as possible. And we just can't have this going on in our unit. Okay. And obviously they had been misled and everything else from the start with this tenant. And they really wanted to be out of this situation. So the next evening after this discovery on Friday, so Saturday night, I was in the Toronto airport and I received a phone call from a male who identified himself as the tenant, and he's asking for a key to the unit. So I basically told him, look, I'll try to get a hold of my inspector. He's got the keys. And if he's able to free himself up this evening and see you, that's fine. Otherwise, maybe you and I could meet tomorrow. So that happened the next day. We had a discussion. He wasn't available at the time. By the time he got back to me, it was too late for me. So we agreed that we would get together Sunday evening. And what was really funny is I phoned him ahead of the time on Sunday, and he said, oh, yeah, I'd forgotten about that. Hang on, buddy. You're locked out of your unit. You need a key. You haven't been in there since Friday, and you kind of forgot that you were going to get a key tonight? So I'm thinking, oh, this is interesting. So I go over to the building for our 8 o'clock meeting, and I'm thinking, maybe I'll be a little bit early for this. So I get there at about 7:30 and I'm setting up down the street. And just before 8 o'clock, I observe a male come walking down the street. He came out of a side street, comes walking down toward the front of the building. And he walks around and he perches himself on the front steps. And about a minute later, I get a text saying, I'm here, I'm sitting on the front steps. So now I know that's my guy. And I thought, well, isn't that odd? He shows up here, like he's no vehicle or anything else. He's walked into the place from somewhere else. He's showing some classic signs of people who are doing something wrong and don't want to be identified or found out. So I approach him and I have a conversation with him. And he identifies himself with his driver's license. He gives it to me and says, here you go. And he puts out his hands for a key. So before giving him the key, I explained to him, look, we're aware of what you're up to here. We know you're not living here. And we've got a real good understanding of what your game is. And then I told him, I said, look, you're going to be moving out of this unit, and it's going to be happening in one of two ways. Either I'm going to serve you with a notice and take you to RTB, where I'm going to be successful in obtaining an order of possession. And along with that, I'll sit down with the RCMP and I'll advise them of who you are, what your activity is, and what you got going on here in Langley. And so I said, we can go that way, or you could sign a mutual agreement to end tenancy and be out of the unit by, say, June 30th. So he looks at me and he says, well, I can't do anything tonight. And, just so you know, I had brought along a mutual agreement to end tenancy. I thought, if he's into the spirit of this, then I'll have him sign off right now and it'll be done. He says, well, I can't really do that tonight. I've got to speak with another person first. How about if I call you tomorrow? So now we're looking at Monday. And so I said, yeah, that'd be fine. Give me a call tomorrow and we'll go from there. Well, Monday he didn't phone. But Tuesday morning at 8:15 he called. And he says, you know what? I've talked to my friend, and I could hear that there was another male there with him. And he says, we've decided to sign the mutual agreement to end tenancy. So I said, fine enough. That's all good for me. He says, can we meet today? And I said, sure. What time's good for you? He said, 1 o'clock. He says, I'll meet you at the building. So I said, okay, see you at 1 o'clock. So I showed up at 1 o'clock. He signed the mutual agreement to end tenancy right away. And that was it. We said, okay, all is well. So the last thing that I did was I watched when he left. And of course he walked to, when he showed up, he had a work belt on with a bunch of tools and stuff on it. So I thought, well, it's obviously this is his day job. So I watched where he went. He went to a vehicle. I just happened to jot the license number down. I thought if something comes up later that causes me or my clients to have some further information with respect to him, then we'll have that. And so that's how it ended. It was short, sweet, quickly done. And everybody, of course, was happy with the results except for him. He had to go find another place to help his friend Maya show her wares. So that's my story.
Okay, Jim, can you hear me?
I can. Can you hear?
Excellent. Okay, well, I just wanted to read you something just in response to that. This was a text that I got on June 6th. So this is Tuesday, June 6th. It says, Cam, we used the services of CTI to evict our sketchy tenant in the, I'm not going to name the building. Thank you from the heart for sharing their contact info with us. Jim said he may use our case, which we now did, for our monthly event. And she says, I think he really enjoyed the experience. We should be charging him, they said. But they really enjoyed your service, so I just wanted to read you those texts live. So funny. Great work helping them out. They've been great clients of mine for many years, and I'm happy that we were able to deal with that on a very quick basis. So,
well, you know what? Sometimes when you get these situations, you just have to sit back for a minute and think, what's the best approach? And that's why I thought coming up with two options for this guy was probably going to be the best approach. And thinking in terms of how he's going to be receiving the information, I thought, you know what? He's not going to want us sitting down with the Langley RCMP and laying out the scenario for them. So in all likelihood, he's going to come our way. And what was interesting about this is
he is a businessman after all, right?
well, and what was interesting was he's not the guy.
Yeah.
He's the guy that does the running around and sets things up and looks after things and does that. But he's obviously reporting to someone else. This is more of an organized type activity than we might think. And that's what you have to be careful of. And, when we talk about people doing inspections, there's a perfect example. If you'd done an inspection 6 months ago, you probably found the same thing. There's a woman living there. There's all kinds of sex toys around the place. And there's obviously activity going on there that was not part of the rental agreement.
Right. Absolutely. Awesome. Well, Jim, thank you so much for joining us all the way on the road there. We do have one quick question for you. Ray, go ahead.
When you met him that evening on Sunday evening, did you give him a key to go back into the suite again?
So the question was, when you met him that Sunday evening, did you actually give him a key to go back into the unit?
Yes. And really, we're obligated to. He's still the tenant at that point. In order to get him out, we have to be seen as playing ball with him, which we did. And of course, once he's out the door, June the 30th, the keys were changed again immediately.
So twice they got changed.
They did.
Right.
And that's Cameron, that's a good point for people to realize. When you've got a rental unit, and even if you got the nicest people in the world as tenants, when you have new tenants coming in, you should be rekeying the locks just to make sure that everybody is secure along the way.
As they say, safe is better than sorry.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, thanks again, Jim. We'll let you get back on the road. And if you guys ever have any, at the end of the day, Jim will say he doesn't necessarily want you to contact him with your tenant problems. But if you're looking for someone to inspect the units on a regular basis to avoid that, Jim is definitely the guy to go to. But if you do have a tenant situation that you need help with, I highly recommend and contact them before it gets too far down the road, because you don't want to be kicking that can too far to the point where they can't step in and help you as well, right? But Jim and Anna, thanks again. I'll let you guys get back on the road there.
Thanks. Have a great evening, everyone.
You too. All right. Okay, I'm just going to bring up our presentation again. There we go. And bring it up for our viewers on YouTube. Oh, what's going on there? There we go. Okay, let's keep the ball rolling here. So that is our Tales from the Trench this time. As you can see, never a dull moment in the world of real estate in this case. But we're just happy that there was a quick resolution for that one. And again, so I was actually out for dinner with the clients that came in from Toronto, and they started telling me all this, that they couldn't get into the unit and they didn't know what to do. And I right away grabbed them. I grabbed my phone, gave them Jim's contact. I said, when we're done lunch here, call them right away. And they were able to get on that. And that turnaround, I think, for them took only about a month. So again, depending on the situation, there are resolutions that can happen fairly quick, but you have to be playing ball, as he said, and you have to know your rights and responsibilities as well. All right, we're going to keep the ball moving. I've seen a few posts coming in, so thank you so much for everyone participating in our draw. Again, if you guys would like to enter our draw for the prize at the end of the night, take photos, videos, post it on your social media using the hashtag Investors Performance Group or IPG 2023, and make sure that you tag the Kelly Fry team, because it makes it much easier for us to find your photos, because we'd hate to have you excluded from the competition as well. All right, we're going to move into our next segment. This is our series of unfortunate Airbnb adventures. This is a segment that we added similar to Tales from the Trenches, only because we do a lot of Airbnbs, and a lot of our clients are moving that way because it's a great way to maximize cash flow and really get a higher yield from your investments. And well, of course, with any investment strategy, it comes with its situations, I should say. And so for that, we're going to bring up our resident Airbnb queen. I should say queens. Diane, are you joining us up here, or is it just Kelly? Just Kelly. All right. Airbnb queen today, Kelly Fry. So Kelly, come on up. Kelly's got multiple segments up today. I'll give you that one this time. You just have to clip it on.
Okay.
And there you go.
All right. Normally, Diane insulates me from many of the problems, but this particular one I had to take on my own battle. So some of you who saw last month will recall that I had an incident where the police kicked in the door of an apartment in Mission. And what happened was the guest I don't know what she was doing at 4 a.m, but she was not in the apartment and she couldn't reach her friend who was staying in the unit. So of course, the natural thing you would do is call 911 and have the police come and kick in the door. So I got a message at 4 a.m. that said, I can't get in the building, I don't have another key. But of course I was sleeping, so I didn't know this was happening. I'm wondering now if maybe I should have a lockbox sign for the RCMP outside the building so this doesn't happen again, because it's a very costly thing to have to repair. So of course I submitted my claim. I got this claims person named Hannah, and she wanted to let me know she received my reimbursement request. At this point, I figured the bill was going to be at least $1,000. I didn't know exactly how much it would be. And the thing that I want to point out is she tells me the section for the resolution center and that the mediation host guarantee is here. And she says, please provide additional information about why did the police break the door. It seems that the damages were not done by the guest, but the police. How do you think the guest is responsible? To which I almost lost my mind when I read that. So I thought, okay, this is going to be a bit of a battle, this one. Don't hesitate to let me know if you have any questions or concerns. So then on June 26, she says, thank you for your response. She references some other items on an invoice from my handyman, and then says, please provide the documents. By the way, the door was not directly damaged by the guest, hence it's not covered loss as per our terms. So then I thought, okay, this is going to take some strategic aggravation on my end. So I said, hey, Anna, hi, Hannah, this is outrageous. How could you have a policy that is more ridiculous? The guest calls 911 to have the door busted because her friend is likely drugged out and can't answer. So the police have no choice but to kick in a perfectly good door. Do you even hear yourself? The tablecloth and rack and toilet paper holder have nothing to do with the police incident. They were just captured on the same invoice. How can you possibly treat a host of so many units in this way? There's criminal activity in if there's any activity of criminal activity in any of my units, I'm better not to call the police or hope that no one else does, because delinquent guests don't have to answer the door and it's my cost to have the police kick it in. You have insurance coverage for these type of situations, and this is why I use Airbnb instead of VRBO, but I'm regretting my decision. I would like to have this escalated to a manager because I do not accept this decision. Because I thought, well, maybe if I try bullying them, maybe they'll do something. So she tells me, thank you for your response. I've checked the estimates. However, your company cannot be verified. I request you consult a professional door replacement company to get an estimate. Now, firstly, we're in peak season, okay? When we have a problem, we have to dispatch a handyman immediately. They drop what they're doing and they go deal with the problem because we have to turn that unit around immediately for the next guest coming. So we had a window where we blocked it off for 2 or 3 days and we had to get something done fast. So I don't have time to find a reputable company that they want me to find. So I say, how do you determine the company cannot be verified? This is insanity. Do you want a copy of their tax return? Have you tried calling them? I CC'd the wife who runs the bookkeeping. I'm beyond frustrated on how poorly this is being handled. I'd like to speak to a manager. Then she tells me, I'd like to inform you that the business cannot be verified. Please know that the claim is not eligible under the host damage protection since we are looking, since we are looking if an exception can be provided, I cannot commit. We would require proper documentation. I also discussed it with my team and hence requested an estimate from a professional company. I said, how do you define a professional company? I can't afford a large corporation. I'm in a market where there's a shortage of trades and they don't have time to do estimates and the work's already done. How exactly would this work? Like, this is just crazy. I'm not going to hire an expensive contractor to come and fix a door. Right? Hi, Kelly. Thanks for your response. I've discussed the case with my team and we're awaiting decision. could you please send me a picture of the temporary repair of the door? So I said, here's how it looks, and it's really bad. So you can see the frame all around is all ripped off. You know, it breaks my heart. We renovated the whole building. She says to me, have you got an estimate for the door? I said, I've already sent you both invoices. Like, it's already done. Like, I don't. Anyway, by some miracle, the final tally for me was $1,500. Airbnb caved and gave me $800 2 or 3 days ago. So yes, I'm sitting with a loss of $778, but I do feel vindicated that I got 800 because it was looking like it was going to be zero for a long time there. Now, I also don't want you to think that Airbnb isn't great, because I have to say this is probably the most lucrative month I've ever had in Airbnb. I've doubled the rates from June to September from what I normally charge. And so it's a great business, but you just can't, you know, it's not for the weak of heart. And so we decided to add a segment of just a monthly Airbnb report. So I just pulled some numbers together to show you guys. My average across 21 units for all these different months ranged from January being the low of 23, April was 24, February almost 25, June's 26.65, and March and May were 27. So averaged out to 25.43 days for the first 6 months of the year. And currently, I've got them running in Abbotsford, Aldergrove, Chilliwack, Cloverdale, Langley, Mission, Coquitlam, and Maple Ridge are missing here. I have those two as well. So we'll keep adding information every month to show you that there's also a lot of positive to this business.
Awesome. All right. Any questions for Kelly at all on Airbnbs? And again, if you guys are watching on YouTube Live, feel free to add any questions you have. The big thing we really want to show here again is that once we start getting up there, I have been getting literally the day by day, like, texts from Kelly of all her bookings. And what she does, she doesn't send me the occupancy. She sends me the dinero. All right. So I'm watching it tick up by a few $1,000s daily with her portfolio. And it's like every time she logs in, it's higher, higher, higher. And she goes, and this is crazy because I still have 15 days left to be booked. And I'm like, wow, it's an incredible strategy. If anyone's looking to really maximize your cash flow in the Lower Mainland, this strategy, while a little difficult with certain buildings and things like that, it is very doable if you find the right buildings, the right areas, and the right types of properties too. Because, yeah.
Oh, I forgot to add one point.
Okay.
So, initially, I had the decision to make, do I just put in a regular door? We can't get a fire door for 3 weeks. So I put in the regular door, and then I was asked, do you want us to spend the money on the fire door? And in light of our next speaker, who's going to talk about fire, I had PTSD from that fire, so I said, you know what, just get me the fire-rated door. I don't need this on my conscience if a fire happens. So we got 2 doors.
All right. So just in regards to what she just said for everyone on YouTube, she had the decision if she was going to put a regular door in or a fire-rated door. And because of our next speaker coming up, it was no decision there. She had to have the fire-rated door. So without further ado, let's bring up our next speaker, Dave Webster. Dave oversees and provides leadership and direction for marketing, sales, homeowner care, and extended communications for McLean Homes, a builder here in the Lower Mainland, and a longtime member of the McLean's management team. He's an industry veteran with over 35 years, and he's passionate about the business, works with a ton of people. He's worked with many of our buyers. So welcome.
Thank you.
I'm going to turn that on and give that to you. And Dave and we're going to talk a little bit about something that happened a little over a month ago. And in fact, for those of you guys who are in the room, I actually did a segment under Tales from the Trenches on what happened. But literally, the information I had at that time was like 2 days old by the time we did our presentation. Yes. So I'll turn it to you. Maybe you can talk a little bit about what happened and some process that you've been going through with this and just how it affects buyers and what they need to know. So
Definitely.
I'll take it away.
Okay. Thank you, Cam. McLean Homes, we're builders. We build condominium buildings, 4-, 5-, 6-story buildings. And the building Cam's referring to is a building we had under construction in Maple Ridge. It was a 5-story building, and Cam and Kelly had done many pre-sales in the building. It was a 50-unit building, completely sold out. And the building was up, the windows were in it, the roof was on it, the plumbing was in it. We're all set to start drywalling. And June 11th, I wake up in the morning, my phone's going bing, 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 bing. And I'm opening it up and there's pictures of this massive fire and everything's on fire. And then I go to the next picture and everything's on fire. And everybody knowing Maple Ridge is texting me, do you know your building's on fire? And drive out to Maple Ridge, and this is what we come across. And our 5-story building with the roof on it now is just a layer of ashes on the ground and an elevator shaft sticking up. And that's all that's left there on the property. Things don't occur quite the way you think you're going to after something like this happens. You really, it's new. It's something that's never happened to you before. And so, there's a million things running through your mind. You've got all your employees. I mean, they're planning to come back to work on Monday and it's Saturday and the building's gone. All the units are all sold. There's 50 people have put their money down and purchased these units.
Including me.
Cam being one of them.
And Kelly, yeah, we got a team one as well that we bought as a group.
Yes. So all these things are running through your mind. You get out there and the fire was so big and so hot, it didn't just burn down our building. It burnt down the house beside it on the east side, burnt down the house on the west side, and then there was an 80-unit condominium behind it, and it burnt that down too. So it was just a massive, massive big fire. That's the bad part. I was there today. This happened on June 11th, 5 weeks ago. I was there today. The slab is almost cleaned off. They've cleaned up most of the ash already. They're cleaning up. This building was completely prefab. We have these buildings now. We have them pre-built in factories where they build all the wall panels, and then we just bring them in. They're trucked in and they're standing up, and you can actually erect these buildings now in about 6 weeks. So 5 weeks after this fire, the new building's ordered. The slab will be all cleaned off in the next few weeks, and we will be back under construction again, probably mid to late September. Positive side.
Pretty
of the
good
story.
turnaround.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. You're talking about insurance.
Yes.
There's a lot to be learned about insurance. You learn a lot very quickly when this happens to you. And it's all about the details of insurance, and just make sure you have everything in order. Things like Kelly's talking about, fire doors, because when something like this happens, there's a lot of insurance adjusters come and they check everything, every little single detail to make sure, because they're not there to start writing your checks. They're there to not write checks.
Yeah.
And they're looking for reasons not to. So anybody in the real estate business, they just suggest to make sure you have all your insurance in order all of the time. I think, Cam, we were talking a little bit about the purchasers.
Yeah, I think that's a good thing to talk about is what happens to the purchasers now, because the estimated completion at the time was supposed to be November-ish this year, correct?
Yes, the building would have been finished around Christmas time this
Right,
year, and
yeah.
everybody would be moving into it.
Clearly not happening now.
Will not be happening. Yes.
So what happens in that case? Because in most of the development contracts as
Yes.
well, there is what's called an end date.
Yes.
And in this case, if I remember correctly, the end date was actually supposed to be for March 2024.
Yes.
Coming up, absolutely. Yes. So what happens? How is it written with a contract, and how are the buyers protected if something like this happens?
Yes.
Because the emails I got were, what happened to my deposit? What happens to my purchase? Did I just lose all my money?
Of course,
Right?
everybody's very concerned
Absolutely,
about this.
absolutely.
I mean, they put up a lot of money. They put up
Absolutely.
a lot of deposit money. A lot
Yeah.
of these units, they sell $600,000.
Absolutely.
So people have $100,000 maybe in deposits up on
And then the worst ones were the ones that got assigned, and I had their realtors calling me too.
Yes, those are the most problematic.
Yeah.
Fortunately, lawyers think these things through. And so they've already thought all this through. And what happens to the contracts for all these people that bought these units is that once you go back and you restart your construction, the contracts just automatically extend by the number of lost days. So if there's 4 months lost or 5 months lost, then everything just moves ahead. The dates just automatically move ahead by the number of days that were lost
Right.
due to the construction.
Right. And the term, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe it's called force majeure.
Yes.
Right.
Correct, yes.
So when you guys are reading your contracts, it's a good idea to, again, first of all, read your contracts, but look for those terms in the contract. What happens? Now, in 35 years experience, how many times has this happened to you?
Well, it's never happened. These things
The
don't
first time.
happen, right.
These things don't happen, right?
No.
But again, this is all built into the contracts to protect you from the what if scenarios. Because several years ago, I want to say maybe 3 or 4 years ago, Langley had this situation happen over on 208th and 80th. So a large building, and I think it took out, they had multiple phases that all burnt down at once too.
Yeah.
So it's not that it can't happen. It's rare, but it does happen. So again, in your contracts, and I'm thinking some of you guys online are probably in the building as well. I've sent it out to everyone saying, make sure you tune in. So the biggest thing is going to be, there's a delay, obviously, now on completion, but that is built into your contract. So your contract doesn't just hit the end date and then everyone's like, okay, you lost your money, move on, right? You're all protected in that case scenario. So.
Yes. And I think given the current market situation, that a lot of people are going to look at this situation now saying, well, I was going to have to close at Christmas time. Interest rates are probably right now near their peak, that this now is probably going to delay out till next summer, maybe possibly next fall. The current beliefs are probably interest rates are going to start to fall off come fall, spring, and that maybe for most people, this is going to turn out to be a benefit to the purchasers in that they're now looking, probably they can.
That was my thought process. I was like, don't have to think about this right now, right? So you've got two things too as well, because with interest rates coming down, if your plan is to assign in a building like this as well, if interest rates come down, those prices will have gone up. You can then assign it and get out and walk away, or you can close on it later on when those interest rates have come down, hold it as a rental property and potentially cash flow better because they're not paying 7 or 7.5%, right?
Yes.
So there's some benefits. Unfortunately,
so. Not to us,
not to you, but as the buyers. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so obviously the biggest thing right now, there's not much that you can do up front, especially when this happens. But you talked about having your ducks in a row. So a couple of things that I read online, and I want you to maybe correct me if I'm wrong, was that the building obviously it went up like a tinderbox, right? Like it was significant.
It was gone in half an hour.
And that's just due to the fact that at the time of construction, you had the building looked like on the outside things were getting done, but on the inside there was no fire rating yet. There was no sprinklers installed. You were still getting to that point, right?
The building was probably at its worst possible situation for a fire. The windows were in it, the roof was on it, but the doors weren't in it.
Mm-hmm.
So you had this built-in chimney effect, or when this thing caught on fire, you had all these doorways allowing the air just to rush in, and once the fire started, it just went through the building.
Just went like crazy. Yes. Yeah, I mean, you can see here just how high those flames. I think they said 200 feet or something in the air.
It's just unbelievable. Yeah,
nuts. Yeah.
Yes.
So with that, again, going back to the insurance, then, so from an insurance standpoint, obviously, you guys have been cataloging all the steps along the way. So you've been prepared to show them that everything's been done up to code at that point, so you can have the coverage, right?
Yes, and there's a lot of little things. What they're looking for is they want to bring other insurers in. So they want to bring the plumbers in, say it was the plumber's fault. They want to say it was the electrician's fault. So that what we do, or I didn't even know we do it, but our foreman every day, at the end of the day, they remove all the propane tanks from the building and they put them all outside. They turn all, and when you're building a new building, you have electrical panels all over the building so people can work. Well, you unplug all of these every night after the workers go home, you unplug all of these things.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no potential of any of these things catching fire. And evidently we do these things and we actually record it.
Yeah.
And so
but you're not on the building side, you're on marketing. So you're learning as you go.
We learn these things, yes.
Yeah, yes. Absolutely.
Yes.
And just out of curiosity, and I don't know if you guys know or not, or if it was released, but the question I keep getting asked is how did it happen? And I don't know. Yeah, nobody knows. Yeah.
The only thing that they've determined is that it wasn't something within the building. So they figure it wasn't anything to do with the construction process, and they confirmed that. Other than that, it's unknown. It's an unknown cause.
Right.
And due to the heat and the extent of the fire,
any evidence would have been seared
everything
away.
is burnt, and there's nothing left to determine.
Excellent.
Is it a torch on the roof?
Yes. Yeah. Yes. Unfortunately, it's been finished for a couple of weeks.
Oh, for a couple of weeks.
Yeah. So the roofers were gone, and
That's one of the big things.
yes, it can be an issue. Yeah.
Was it underground parking or surface
Yes.
parking?
Underground parking. Yes.
All right. We'll open it up for some questions. Absolutely. So Rainer, and then I'll just repeat the questions so that everyone on YouTube can hear them. So.
I was going to ask, follow up on, was it probably arson, and was there a motive, like a nasty neighbor who didn't want
The NIMBYs, right?
I mean,
Secondly, was was there anything you would do different to protect yourself, or will do in the next project you do?
So yeah, so
In other words,
Yes.
Yeah, so question for YouTube, is there anything that would be done differently to protect yourself in this situation?
It's difficult. We had a camera system around the building, so there's cameras that are mounted all around the building, and that's monitored. And then we have 2 people on site, and they were actually there with garden hoses trying to put it out before the fire department got there. It's just unfortunate when these buildings, when they're dry and they catch on fire, they go up quickly. It just goes so fast.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, question.
Didn't the concrete get destroyed by the heat?
No,
Was
it
the
doesn't.
concrete destroyed?
Yes.
Yeah.
Evidently, it doesn't. It will be tested once we finish clearing the rest of the debris off, and then engineers will come in and test it. But the belief is, and these happen, the adjusters that come out and are working on this, they work all across Canada. They have a division that just works on building fires, and generally the parquet is fine.
Excellent. And again, if you're on YouTube, feel free to drop any questions. And Kelly.
You know, we have an engineer on our team, Elisa, and she brought up a point I was wondering about. She said it's likely that all the underground drainage melted from the heat.
It may very well, yes.
Okay, so just so the question was, just we do have an engineer on our team, and she's worried that the drainage might have melted in the fire. So I'll let you take it from there.
Unfortunately, at this time, the underground's full of water, so we don't know. Because the drains aren't hooked up, and the fire department was pouring water on it. The water just runs through and right down into the parkade. And of course, all the pumps and everything, all the wiring to the pumps all burnt out. So it's just sitting there full of water right now. Until such time as it's removed, then start testing and just see where that's at. And if it is, you'll just have to start taking the concrete out and get back and find them.
So you're gonna frame in the rain from now on?
Yeah, we went from framing into summer to framing into the winter.
All right, so we have a question here from YouTube. Will the price go up for purchasers?
Sure would be nice, wouldn't it?
For them, it would be nice.
Yes.
But again, the prices are
The
locked
prices
in.
are, as any pre-sale contract, the prices are set and the
That's
prices don't change to the purchasers.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. So you guys are locked in. And that's why I said, from a purchaser standpoint, it's actually not the worst thing for us in the world, because it gives us more time in the market for things to change, as Dave mentioned, with interest rates, or again, prices fluctuating as well. So there is some, for lack of a better word, some benefit to the buyers if that happens.
Yeah.
Yes. Definitely not for the developers.
No, not good for the developers.
Does the insurance cover the carrying costs? Because you have to hold the ladder on them.
No. They don't insure interest.
They don't.
That's your problem. Yes.
Yeah, so that was just the question of, does insurance cover the extra carrying costs? And
No, they just simply replaced what was damaged.
luckily, Ray, you haven't had to deal with this, so now you've got some insights.
Yeah, we talked about the damage, though.
But yes.
All right, any other questions? I mean, at the end of the day, it's definitely a scary situation to happen. No one ever wants to, and whether it's a personal residence. A couple of months ago, we had one of our members, I showed it on the screen, and they had a GoFundMe, right? So their house burned down due to their neighbor's hot tub had a wiring issue,
yes.
right? So it's unfortunate, but the main key thing with any of these situations is just always make sure you have your adequate insurance coverage, so that if anything happens, you're able to recover, at least in this case, the building costs and get done. If it's a home, at least have something that can cover the rebuild of that home. You're not going to retain the memories, unfortunately, on that side, but there's a lot of others. Now, you did bring some good news out here, so why don't we talk about that? We're going to switch gears and talk from Edge 3 to something else here.
Yes. This building.
I can be your tripod.
We can be the tripod, or we can put them on here.
There, that works too.
The building, this has been an area that I think Cam's quite familiar with it. We've built 3 buildings in this area of Maple Ridge. It's right in the downtown core of Maple Ridge. City Hall is right here, right across the street. And then we've built this building here, which is originally the Edge on Edge. So we built this building here, which was the Edge 2. We have this building that just burnt down, Edge 3. And this is the building that we're just going to start. We'll be marketing this fall. It's called the Edge 4. which is this building right here. Now, this is an area that when we started selling these units in this area 6, 7, 8 years ago, in the original building, we were selling 1-bedroom and dens in there at $189,000. I think Cam just did an assignment this spring at $450. So it's an area that's just become very, very, very popular in Maple Ridge. And it just seems to keep on going. It's an area that's very convenient to transit, very easy to get around, very rentable. Rents are very, very strong in the area. And we'll have a series of, there'll be, this, I think the floor plate, it's a 90-unit building. Be a combination, a lot of, we do a lot of these 1-bedroom and dens. Very popular. Cam sold quite a few of them.
I did. It's my favorite one.
They're well priced. They rent very, very well. And then there'll be several 2-bedrooms that'll be located on the corners of the building.
All right. So question is, when do you think, and again, it's all dependent on several factors, but what is the estimated timeline that you think you'll be ready to get the disclosure and start selling?
We're hoping this fall,
okay,
but things never go as quickly with cities as you hope.
Yeah.
So it could very likely be January, February.
Okay, perfect. So keep that in mind. If you guys have already heard it here first. So if you guys are interested in this, let us know, and we can definitely keep you in the mind for when the building goes live. Kelly.
Yes, Kelly.
So you've built now, almost built 2 buildings.
Yes.
And I know that after you did edge on edge, you did feedback from the owners to improve the edge 2. What will you be doing differently in edge 4 from everything you've learned?
Sorry, just for YouTube. Question is, obviously you've done now, this will be the 4th building, yes, and you learn every time you do a building in the area and you get the feedback from the owners. What are you doing differently for Edge 4?
Well, what we've done in this building is that we found this area, because it's right in the middle of town, that you get a lot of seniors living here because they can walk to everything and they don't have to have a car. The Shoppers Drug Mart's right across the street. There's a grocery store right across the street. The senior center is just down the way. So we've come up with this. Traditionally, we do these 1-bedroom and den units that we've sold lots and lots, hundreds of them. They're 650 square feet, so they're a good size 1-bedroom and den. But because of their size, they are a little bit expensive for some seniors. So what we've done is we've come up with this new plan, and we have 25 of them in the building, which is a 1-bedroom, straight 1-bedroom without a den. And it's been designed with a smaller kitchen because generally it's just for a single person. But they're just right around 500 square feet. So we'll be able to bring the price down on them to assist with the seniors. And then what we did is I made a deal with the Maple Ridge Senior Society, which is just down the street. And for seniors that move in here, and if they will automatically become members of the Ridge Meadows Senior Society. And part of that is that their dinners are included for the first year as a method to get them involved into the seniors community in Maple Ridge.
That's definitely different.
Yes.
That's thinking outside the box.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I think it'll be an excellent scenario, whether they're renting or whether they're buying. It's definitely an advantage.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Ray.
What percentage of the 1-bedrooms compared to the 2-bedrooms and do you have studios too? Or?
Well, the studios have all been converted to these 1-bedroom type units. Yes.
You don't have any studios?
We don't, no studios in here, no.
So it's like 50%, 1-bedroom, 50% two?
No, there's only for 22 bedrooms and about 70 1-bedrooms.
How much is square foot?
We haven't come to that yet.
Yeah, pricing will come later.
Yes, this fall.
No 3 bedrooms in this one?
No 3 bedrooms.
Was that a tougher sell for you? Or?
3 bedrooms are a little tougher to sell. Yes, especially in the city center. Is that it's not really family-oriented housing. I mean, it's more mature couples. It's seniors. It's not really a family-oriented area.
Excellent. And I did see one other question came in here online. The person says, I will be losing income coming from an investment property. Will it be compensated? So it sounds like the money that she's got tied up into the property, she's paying money on that, and obviously the delay is going to cost her more money.
Yes.
I already know the answer, but will that be compensated?
No. it will
No.
not, no.
Yeah, so it's not built into the contracts that there's any compensation to the buyers. Really, it's just that you are delaying,
Extending the dates.
That's correct,
yes, into the future.
Yeah,
Yes.
and that's the thing with builds too. I mean, I've been involved in so many pre-sales over the years. You know, you guys are fantastic, and normally, minus this situation, get the buildings done quite quick and deliver on time. But there's several situations too. I mean, we had buildings in downtown Poco that were 2 years late compared to their estimated completion date
Yes.
due to any number of issues, whether it's the city or contractors or whatever. So there's never a guarantee on the actual completion date. That is why they have the end date built into the contracts. And again, situations like this allow the developer to extend it because obviously it's through no fault of the developer and what they've done that this situation happens. So
Yes, this is just has occurred.
yeah. All right. Well, if there's no other questions, Dave, we appreciate you coming out and sharing this. And I know a lot of
Thank
people
you,
have been
Kevin.
asking me questions. So now we've got some stuff that we can send them based on this. And, you know, we look forward to seeing the building back up and running in the meantime.
By
And
Christmas
we
time, we'll be back to where we were.
excellent. Well, we look forward to seeing Edge 4 when it's ready to go. So
Excellent.
awesome. All right. I'll grab that thing from you there. Perfect. Thank you so much. All right. And we'll get back up and running here. Got to share my. Okay. Okay, we'll keep the ball rolling here so we can get you guys out on time, or even we're a little ahead of schedule, so that's great. We can get you guys some more pizza, some more drinks, and obviously start networking together. So lastly, don't forget, we're still running our competition here. So if you guys want, throw a picture up there, tag the Kelly Fry team. I know we've gotten a couple. We've got the books ready to go to give away at the end here. All right, we're going to talk about what's going on in the market now. Now, every month, for those of you who are joining us for the first time, we're going to go through what's going on in the market. We look at both, you know, a little bit of what the month over month has been and obviously year over year, just giving you guys an idea where the trends are happening, because as investors, we have to be very strategic on the types of investing we do and know where the market is going. However, at the end of the day, if you buy something and you hold on to it long enough, just as Ray said, you know, if he does a rent to own, he knows in 5 years he's probably going to be pretty safe. The Lower Mainland, you're always going to do very, very well. But understanding what's happening in the market can allow you to make sometimes more strategic buys. So first and foremost, I've been showing these slides a little bit more. And I'm actually going to turn the light off just so you can see them a little better. That should be better. We're really tracking the inventory, the sales, and then obviously where the prices are going to give us an indication of what the trend lines are. Now, one thing I always like to say is about 2 to 4 months of a trend going one direction starts to see the ball rolling. But the minute you see it go down or change, that's when you got to start monitoring and keeping an eye on the market. Now, in terms of total inventory, what we have seen here is that we've been trending upwards since January. So that's not uncommon. You know, we get into the spring market, things start picking up, more people start selling. You can see here in the Fraser Valley, it kind of was actually plateauing for a bit. They've had a bit of a spike. And then Chilliwack, just because the numbers are lower, it is actually up, but it doesn't look like it's as big of a spike as Greater Vancouver. Now, unfortunately, it's hard to see the numbers, so we're going to fix that. We talked about on our next presentation. But right now, the total inventory as of January, I got to read it off the screen here because it is mighty small. Oh, I can't even read it from there. Let me see here. It's 9,000. Looks like 9,880, which is down in inventory over last year. So what you'll actually notice here is that the inventory was actually quite a bit higher in these months here. Now, this was 2020, 2021. We had a big drop off in inventory when 2021 was going really crazy, but then a big spike up in 2022. Now, what happened from 2020 to 2022? Can anyone tell me? COVID, right? And yet, what was the news article saying every single month during COVID? Record low inventory. So yet this here is what's considered record low, even in the peaks. That means we have even less inventory in the market than we had during the record lows. So that's something to keep an eye on. What happens with low inventory and we have an increase in demand? prices rise. Absolutely. So what's been going on in sales? Well, here is January. We can see obviously in the peak of, COVID, sales were extremely high, but we've had a huge spike in the sales during this period of time, partly due to the fact that we had a couple of months where interest rates flatlined, right? We had 2 months of announcements that nothing happened. Buyers jumped off their wallets and started buying. And we saw multiple offers left, right, and center. I mean, we started seeing what we call a DRPO, which is a direction of offers saying, hey, come by our open house, and on Monday or Tuesday, we're going to present all offers. That started happening regularly again. And it really went through basically December. It started picking up all the way through till June. Now, we did see here in the greater Vancouver area from May to June, it did drop a little bit. And that's just due to the fact that we have seen inventory continue to rise. And what else happened in the last couple months? Interest rates went back up. Interesting. So interest rates go back up. What happened to the buyers? They took that step back again, right? So we saw it drop off. Not as much in the Fraser Valley. Fraser Valley is still moving upwards. Again, there's an affordability factor there. And Chilliwack actually dropped a little bit. Chilliwack was getting kind of crazy. I wrote, I think, how many offers now? 9 offers for one client. We've lost every single time in Chilliwack. So it's been very busy in that market. Now, here's where we're looking at sales, okay? So in the peak of the market, this is where the market peaked out right here in 2020. That's around February, March 2022. And we saw, obviously, the prices decline. And Fraser Valley got hit the hardest, right? You can see that swing down. But during COVID, they're also the ones that swung up the most, right? Because everyone was leaving Vancouver, going to a more affordable market. We saw Abbotsford and Mission and Surrey and everywhere really spike. Now, as we got into the low interest rate, again, this is the bottom here of January, what happened? We had a fairly steep incline over the last 6 months. Prices have come back. And as you can see here, from this point across, we're not too far down from the peak that we were back at the beginning of, or where we peaked out before, and even including Chilliwack and obviously Fraser Valley. But again, those interest rates are going to have their impact. We're going to have more buyers take a step back. Sales might drop a bit. And when that happens, more negotiating opportunities arise, which means prices might come down. And we've already seen a little bit of an indicator of that right here. So this is May to June. Still a little bit up in the Fraser Valley, and Chilliwack has definitely seen that little bit of a drop. So now that's starting to tell us as investors, maybe there's a little bit less competition out in the market. Prices are coming down a bit. Maybe we can get a more affordable property. Will this trend continue? Possibly. Again, it's only 1 month of stats right now. And I like to look at 2 to 4 months to see if that trend line continues before it's a real trend. But that doesn't mean you guys can't jump into the market with the right strategy and hold down a little bit further. You can ride it back on the upward swing. And that's what we investors have to think about. Okay, if I can get a good deal, if the deal makes sense for me and I can hold on to it for the next 3 to 5 years, do we think that value will swing back up? How many of you guys think property values will come back up? Right? Most of the investors, the developers in the room are like, yeah, absolutely. All right, so we're going to take it from east to west. We're going to look at some of the statistics. This is year over year now. So this was interesting here. Chilliwack, again, we saw the prices going up. So over last year, we've seen it actually go up nearly 5% over last year. That's a nice little healthy boost. Inventory is down over last year. So even though the inventory is coming up, as we saw, it is still down year over year. We still have less properties on the market. The townhouse market only saw 50 listings in the month of June. Really not that much at all. And 73 condos. Pretty flat here year over year. So not a big change, not a big drop, and down about 4.3% there. But you can also see the days on market are dropping, at least in these two categories. This one's up, but 24 days on the market, still a pretty quick sale, right? So people are still buying relatively quick. Properties don't sit on the market very long if they're well priced. Abbotsford, same thing. It's up a little bit in the detached, down 8.6 over last year in townhouse, and down a little bit in the condos there. 23 days, 19 days, 27. So it's up 50%. But I mean, things did sell pretty quick in the old market. But we're down across the board year over year here. So down 15%. Huge drop in inventory over last year, and pretty big drop on the condos as well. Mission, pretty flat, 1.3% down over last year is not a huge change. We're down on the inventory, up significantly, so it is taking longer to sell properties. And again, the problem with Mission, I find, is that sometimes people price things astronomical. It doesn't make any sense when you look at the comps. I don't know why some people do that. But, looking at the townhouse inventory, there's only 27 townhouses on the market right now, which means only up 8%. That's not a lot of townhouses. As they say in the townhouse market, that's the missing middle. We need more townhouses in that market and condos as well. So I know, Ray, you've got one building you're working on that's purpose built, but you've got a condo building coming up as well, right? So we're going to see more inventory. We've seen a significant rise in these listings due to several buildings. Wren and Raven, that one's got several assignments on the market right now. And the Preston on 14th. There's a lot of properties that are hitting the market as assignments. That's now starting to boost that number. And that's why we see 111% increase in the inventory there. Still up though, 12.8%. Again, as more of these new buildings start actually coming onto market and setting the tone for prices in the Mission area, we're going to see that this will start to not fluctuate high numbers, just due to the fact that there was so much old inventory. And we used to see buildings selling for like $100,000, and then a new one would sell for $300,000. So the numbers would always fluctuate quite a bit because there's just not enough data in the condo market in Mission. That is starting to change, and we're going to start to see a normalization of those prices. Okay, Langley, only down about 2.2. The average detached home is still $1.7 million out there. Just under 900 for townhouses, up slightly, and condos just down 1.6%. Again, it doesn't take long to sell a townhouse. Townhouses are going like crazy out in Langley right now. We've had several listings that have sold pretty quick, and I've been in multiple offers on them as well. But again, inventory, common factor being down over last year. Surrey up significantly at 10.2%. Pretty flat on the townhouses, flat on the condos. Inventory down again. Maple Ridge. So we talked a lot about Maple Ridge. We're flat right now on the detached. Not too bad on the townhouses, 2.4. We're still down on the condo market, and that's because, again, it's a little bit more affordable in the townhouse. So once that starts going up, we'll see condos likely start to rise to keep up with affordability. But again, down in all categories here. Only 93 condos on the market, and a whole bunch of them that were on the market were assignments in the Edge 3. So those will still be on the market. They haven't been taken down, but we're not going to probably see them sell for a while. So that's going to hold that inventory up. Okay, moving over to Vancouver. I always find Vancouver a little bit different. And I do have clients who are buying investments in the Vancouver area, downtown, everything like that. With the right strategy, you can make things work out there. So that's why we bring this up. If you're looking in Vancouver, up at around 3.2%. So we're still showing growth in the Vancouver East side. Average is over $2 million in Vancouver East right now. Inventory is still low, only 461 listings last month. And it only takes 2 weeks to sell a house right now in an average area right now. Townhouses are down about 6.5%, but condos are up. Again, inventory both down in both cases, and really doesn't take long to sell anything there. Vancouver West, this one always cracks me up. Every single month we've been doing this. This one has almost always been positive in Vancouver West. And the big reason is because if you're buying a $4 million house, you're not likely as affected by interest rates. Some people are paying cash, other people can afford it. So that one's been consistently up month over month over month. Inventory continues to stay down, and we're actually up in the townhouse and condo market as well. So I do pull a little bit of information from the Fraser Valley Real Estate Board, only because a lot of our investors are buying out there from an affordability factor. Housing market sales increasing despite rate hikes in low supply. Turn that back on. The housing market saw strong sales activity with levels on par with a 10-year average for the month amid the ongoing challenges with supply. Prices continue to trend upward with lack of supply and high demand for housing. What we're seeing is sales increasing with buyers entering the market despite the current financial implications of anticipated rate hikes. A number of factors are at play, from low supply to unprecedented interest rates and the highest in more than 20 years. And the big thing that not a lot of people talk about is immigration. We have a significant amount of immigration. I believe, what was the number? Something like 1 million new Canadians came, not like in the most recent months. So when you have a significant amount of immigration coming into an area, Toronto and Vancouver are going to get, in the Lower Mainland, will get a lot of that immigration. That is going to put pressure on our housing market with continued low supply, we're going to be able to ride out a lot of these interest rate situations just due to the demand aspect of people needing homes. And when people are immigrating right now, we're not taking necessarily tons of refugees in. We are actually trying to attract professionals that want to come here. They're bringing money over and they're working. And a lot of them might be buying right away if they've got the right visa. But as soon as they come in, we're putting pressure on the rentals, which are already extremely low. So great news for landlords. Rents are going up. But also, they're not going to rent for too long before they start getting into the housing market. This is going to continue to put that pressure on our already low supply. And unfortunately, and developers in the room can probably attest to this, it's a slow process dealing with cities to get properties to market. And so with all that, backlog, we're not building fast enough to maintain the housing that we need for the immigration. So that's always going to continue to put pressure on prices. And that's why investors like Kelly and I continue to see the Lower Mainland and Fraser Valley as one of the strongest and safest investment markets in Canada because of these reasons, right? Okay, speaking about hot deals, what's going on out there? I mentioned Mission's got a lot of assignments on the market. And the problem is when you have a ton of assignments flood the market, it tends to be what we like to call a race to the bottom, right? Everyone floods the market. So many people are trying to sell their units before a building's complete. And well, they're going to start undercutting each other. And when that happens, really amazing opportunities arise for investors to jump in and get properties at great prices. So here's one that we found. This is the Preston on 14th. We actually sold a lot of investors into this building already. There's a 1-bedroom, 1-bath, just under 500 square feet that's being completed towards the end of this year, maybe even early next year. Taking a look at the numbers, again, we're going to utilize the Airbnb strategy because we want to maximize our returns in our market. And the trick is with this building, there's no restrictions on Airbnbs at this point, right? It doesn't change until the strat is actually formed and you get the NIMBYs who say, not in my backyard, or in my case, not in my building, right? So you want to get in, get these buildings, start your Airbnbs and get on council. But we ran it at about $120 a night with 27 nights rented. When you start factoring in, you got property taxes, you got some insurance, that's going to be a little higher when you're running a proper Airbnb and notifying your insurance company. We learned all about having proper insurance already, right? So don't lie to your insurance company because that's the worst thing that can happen. You'll be paying utilities, some repairs. We did put a 20% property management just to show you that this investment still works, even with a 20%, with someone else handling everything for you. You're going to provide cable internet. You got strata fees, Airbnb's taking their fee. You've got your mortgage, which we factored in at 5.75 over 30 years, some supplies. Your cash flow on this property is going to be about $148 a month. Not bad for it completely managed for you. But if you're local and you want to cut out that 20%, your cash flow can actually go up to just under $800 a month on a 1-bedroom in Mission. And we're very solid with these numbers. Why? Because Kelly, how many Airbnbs do you have in Mission right now? 10. We know Airbnb numbers in Mission, so we're very confident. And the thing is, too, Kelly's building is a much older building, and she's generating around 125 right now. So at 120 with a brand new unit, which is going to be more attractive to people staying there, we're very confident in the 120 a night as an average, and that's not factoring in peak season as well, right? So return on investment, you're looking at a cash on cash. This is with the management. Obviously, it would be very much higher without the management, about 1.85%. The return on equity, about 3.93. And we factor in appreciation only at 3% a year. Again, we like to keep it nice and conservative. You're looking at a total return of about 17.21%. That's factoring in the higher interest rates and, of course, the fact you have to furnish it. So there's additional costs involved as well. So great opportunity. If anyone has any questions about this or you're interested, give me a shout or give Kelly a shout, whoever you're working with on the team, and we can definitely let you know about it and get you into take a look at the stats. All right. That one is $497. So it's a smaller 1-bed, but those make perfect Airbnbs. Quick, easy to clean, done and done. All right. Okay, flip your phones out. Our lovely marketing team has a bunch of QR codes that are ready for you guys to scan so you guys can keep up with us every single day, every single week with what's going on in the market, what's going on with listings, everything like that. So you can check us out on our social media. We are on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, YouTube, And most recently, we just joined Threads. So for any of you guys who've been paying attention to what's going on in the meta world with Threads, we're there as well. So just follow us at Kelly Fry Team. And again, thank you to everyone who's participated with us today. You can check out Kelly and I. We're both on TikTok as well. So if you're enjoying scrolling through TikTok at night and you want to get a little education before you go to bed, check out our content there as well. All right. You can check out the podcast, the Manning Up on Real Estate podcast. We've got tons of episodes there that you guys can listen to. It's focusing on real estate, marketing, entrepreneurship, business in general. So we've got tons of different interviews you guys can check out. And everyone, we've got a private Facebook group. I highly recommend everyone scan this one and join the Facebook group. In here, this is where we do more boots on the ground. So you're not having to wait until our next monthly meeting. I do a weekly live stream where I talk boots on the ground, what's going on in the market. That's Mondays at 10:30. I'll show you that after. We post relevant articles. When situations happen with buildings that we've been in, we post it in there so people stay informed. You want to be part of our online community. You want to engage. Because not only that, let's say you have a deal that you're trying to finance. You can always be posting those deals and seeing if you can find JV partners. You could be, maybe you got money and you're looking for a JV to put that money into or some private lending opportunities. There's so many avenues you can go through with the private Facebook. So join the community and jump into some conversations there. I think everyone's done scanning. Perfect. And again, Monday morning market update with myself at 10:30. Unfortunately, we've had about a month hiatus. Just certain circumstances caused me not to be able to do them, but we're going to be coming back very shortly. And again, this is your boots on the ground, week by week, what I am seeing in the market and how it affects you as the investors. All right. And today's winner for our book. Oh, refresh. Oh, there's two. Okay, there's two winners. Let's bring up both winners. We got two winners for books today. All right. We've got Jennifer and we've got Laura. All right. So feel free to come on up, ladies. I've got a book on rent to own, since we talked about rent to own, and we're giving away one of Kyle Green's book, Rockstar Real Estate Investing. So Laura, since you're up first, I'll give you first dibs. Which one do you like? Rent to own. All right. And I'll give you this one. We'll grab a photo with you ladies here. Congratulations. All right. Perfect. Thank you so much. And with that being said, our next meeting is going to be on August 17th. So jot it in your calendars, put it in your phones, whatever you need to do. Or you can always join us on meetup.com or on our private Facebook group, and you'll be notified every single time we have one of these meetings coming up. Feel free to invite your friends, your families, your future JV partners. We'd love to see you guys out. Thank you so much for coming out on a beautiful July evening. And again, we have a little bit of pizza left, some dessert, drinks, and go and meet somebody new. That's it for me, folks. Thank you. All right. And for those of you guys on YouTube, thank you so much for joining us live with us today. I hope you guys got a lot of value out of this. If you have any questions, don't be afraid to reach out to us. Again, my name is Cameron Manning, Director of Sales with the Kelly Fry Team, and you can reach out to me at 604-365-9771 or CameronEManning@gmail.com. We'll see you guys next month, and feel free to join our online community as well. Thanks. Bye.